So thank you so much for the invitation to join this webinar seminar. It's really good to be part of this this initiative. It's a really important initiative, so I'm really pleased to be here to share some thoughts with you. I am going to speak probably for around 15 minutes, so that it gives us an opportunity to have time for discussion. And I think probably on reflecting on my career so far, because I'm partway through my career, I probably would say that I haven't had a master plan. I think it's been a combination of what I would call the game of snakes and ladders and chess. So a certain amount of trying things out and then sliding down the snake, not quite good to go. Combined with a bit more thoughtfulness around, as you might think about a chess game, and thinking about the moves and the navigating things in a more thoughtful and strategic way. So this is a very personal reflection, and what I've tried to do is group this reflection in this way, that hopefully we're all aiming for a career that is both rewarding and sustained, and when I did reflect back, I think these are the sorts of areas that I think are helpful for some thinking and some reflection on. I think it's fair to say that implementation research is an extremely broad and wide-ranging area of inquiry. It includes a lot of a broad church, I guess, in terms of the disciplines. Psychology, sociology, applied research, just to mention a few, and lots of different clinical backgrounds, or of course also come into implementation research, which for me was a good thing, because I have got a very eclectic background, in the sense that I started off as a nurse. My degrees were in psychology, and then my PhD in applied health research. And my interest in implementation research really was from a movement of guideline development into sort of very traditional systematic review technology, to being interested to know how that evidence gets used in practice. Because I was thinking, well, we were developing these guidelines, but I wasn't clear about what was happening next, and that's what really sparked my interest in implementation research. And I think I probably, in that respect, was lucky, because I had a broad background, and so coming into implementation research when it was still relatively, I guess, early in its creation, in its startup, was a benefit to have that broad background. Clearly, because it is a broad area of inquiry, it means that you need a number of different tools in your toolbox, methodological methods, and clearly those will evolve over time, and they have, for me, evolved over time through experience and also formal study. Methodologically and methods wise, it's a great thing about implementation research. You can really draw on a wide range of approaches to approach these challenges, these implementation challenges, and certainly I've been able to draw on methods research, obviously qualitative research. I've even ventured, some of you might be aware, into the trial space, pragmatic trial space, with a couple of studies, and more recently, over the last few years, have been experimenting with the use of realist research within implementation research. So methodologically and methods, you need to be building up that toolbox, that bank of approaches to be able to apply. The other area, the other sort of I guess area of expertise skills is around theory, the use of theory, multiple theories. I started, as many of you might know, I started out very much learning and developing the Paris framework. Over time, I've become more pluralistic in my use of theory, and I think I would say that the use of theories is dependent on the implementation challenge that you have and the problem that you've got in front of front of you that you're dealing with. But sort of building up skills and knowledge about different theories is also really important. Practical skills and knowledge, learning to navigate different types of systems, because you have to, as you know, work within different contexts, within different systems, with different processes. And you find yourself having to navigate those and use quite sophisticated communication skills. Of course, there's the whole area of personal skills and development around your own knowledge about yourself, awareness of self, the time that you spend reflecting on you, where you're at, your CV, what the gaps are, what needs to be filled. So certainly time in your working life to self-reflect. I'll come back a bit more to that a little bit later on. And then of course there's also knowledge that you need to gain about knowledge itself. Implementation requires an understanding of different sources of evidence from different types of knowledge, and these are, as you'll probably be aware, are valued differently by different people, are valued in different ways by different people, and so having a broad understanding of knowledge, I think, is important. And I think when we touch on the idea of skills and knowledge, we're also not just thinking about oneself, myself. It also puts me in mind of needing to think about the team that you have around yourself, that you might build around yourself, but also the team that you might become. So implementation research is very much a team sport, and so learning to be part of a team is really important. I've been extremely lucky in the teams that I've worked with over the years, and extremely comfortable in the teams that I've worked with over the years. And there's only been one occasion where I've actually withdrawn myself from a team because I wasn't comfortable with the values and the approach of the leader of that team. So I suppose in respect of this area, I think I'm saying you require, in my experience, a variety of technical skills, for sure, but also equally important are other skills, such as those that I've touched on, including leadership and interpersonal communication. One of the other things, reflecting back, is the idea of building up programs of work over time. Clearly, it's something that was brought to my attention and brought home to me, really, when I visited Carol Estabrooks in Canada, in Alberta, quite early on in my implementation research career. And she really was very thoughtful in the way that she had built her program of work, that made me think about how I might try and build a program of work. And of course that might be driven by your own interests and your own expertise, but clearly that's also got to be driven by the environment that you're working in, the teams, the organizations that you're working with and you're collaborating with. Also partially, in practical terms, will be driven by the funding opportunities that you might have. And clearly driven by policy, local policy, as well as more national and international policy. So it's really important to understand the policy drivers and the political issues, and really key, if you can, to sort of look ahead and see where the trends are going and what might be coming next, so that you can develop your work looking, if you like, to the future. And this flags to me, I think, the idea, the notion, the importance of developing collaborative working relationships with partners, with decision makers, with other stakeholders. Over the time that I've been interested in implementation research, I've seen a shift from implementation being something that's an individual endeavor to something that's is about an individual in the context in which they're working, and much more of an organizational and team perspective, to now where we are talking a lot about co-production. So it's important to be paying attention to, of course, relational skills, how you build a program of work or projects around the potential for impact. And this does require attention to building longer term relationships, I think. Certainly when I was in leading a project that Chris was involved in, actually, around looking at how higher education institutions collaborate with services to create environments where implementation is more likely to happen. What was really key to the success of those partnerships, whether implementation did happen, was this time and attention to relationship building in those early stages. So it's, I think, a really important ingredient for success in terms of impactful research. If I'm honest, I don't think that I have been as programmatic as I could have been in my career thus far. If I think about my program of work, I can identify clear elements which are around development and testing, around intervention development and testing, and also a package of work around methodological development. I think probably the key is to have an element of the planned, but also element of being able to respond to the situation you find yourself in, and those serendipitous opportunities that might come along that you might want to take advantage of, which requires to be able to be flexible. Let me think about context. Of course, context in implementation research is absolutely critical. As I said earlier, I came into implementation research when we were moving from that that view of implementation being an individual thing to it being more of a thing that happens within the context of practice, and that reminds us that there are many different types of contexts: so social context, physical context, professional context, practice context, and they all have their own cultures, their own ways of working. And now, of course, seeing context through the lens of complexity, so increasingly the systems thinking and complexity science that is now evident in the implementation research literature. So as an implementation researcher, it's really important that you're able to learn how to navigate those different contexts, how to tune into those different contexts, be sympathetic to them, and critically to be able to build up your own credibility within those contexts. That obviously requires different skills in relation to conversations with commissioners, with patients, with managers, the sorts of people that you'll come across within those different areas and situations, and particularly an appreciation of different cultures. And this also reminds me about how you spend a lot of time in implementation research with your foot in different camps, if you like. So you're continually working across boundaries, and that raises the issue of how you manage, for example, the politics of situations, how you work with different constituencies with their own views about the way that things should be done. So negotiation, consensus building, particularly if you're trying to agree research agendas, becomes really important. Personally, I find myself wearing lots of different hats, as I'm sure you do, from day to day, often from meeting to meeting, and I think that it does take time. It's taken me time to build up, I guess, the confidence to be able to have those different conversations with different people in different contexts. Then networks, absolutely critical. Building up networks, really important. Networks are more locally around you, but then more nationally, and then vitally important as you get more experience, your international networks. And I would say network in terms of your support networks, support as in developmental, mentoring, coaching, but also professional networks, your research networks that you would want to build up over your career. Earlier in my career, I was really fortunate to be introduced and actually then helped develop the knowledge utilization, KU forum, which is essentially an international community of practice, and that being involved in that network has really given me access to new ways of thinking about things, connections to people that I would have never had, leading to projects, leading to funded projects, access to a wide range of resources and a wide range of opportunities, and of course putting yourself in these different networks also really help with sparking new ideas, different ideas, new ways of doing things. And so, for example, the FIRE study, the Facilitating Implementation Research Evidence project, the EU funded project, was a project that directly came out of the collaboration from that KU forum. And there are a number of other examples that I could put my finger on where I've really thought back, and the reason why those have been successful is because I've managed to navigate my way into these networks. I mentioned that I think it's important to think about your local, national, and international networks, and clearly that does take time and effort, and a certain amount of energy investment as well, of course. I think where you can, if you can hook into ready-made networks, as well as thinking about how you do build your networks over time in a more thoughtful way, in a more strategic way, is really important. And then underpinning all this, of course, I think are your sort of other personal qualities, personal characteristics that you bring to your career, to the potential of a rewarding and sustained successful career. And I think one of the things that's really important is the ability for me, to continually reflect and learn from that reflection. So you can build a bank and this toolkit of technical skills through doing the research, and that will ensure that you are filling that toolbox, if you like. But there are also the skills that are less technical, that are required to navigate those different contexts that I've talked about, that enable you to work with a variety of different people, and for you to be able to lead projects. And those often come with what you bring to the endeavour personally. I think the opportunity to seize opportunities as they come along, even if you don't think that you're particularly ready for them, just go for it. What have you got to lose? That's certainly where I would say that I was very surprised with the outcome of things like being the editor of Worldviews on Evidence-Based Nursing, being aware of the Implementation Strategy Group for the National Institute for Health and Clinical Excellence, and more recently being the Programme Director of one of the research programs for the National Institute for Health Research. I think sometimes it's not very comfortable. You feel a little bit uncomfortable about going for these opportunities, but I would say just go for it and give it a go. You haven't got anything to lose. I'm also somebody who maybe bored a little bit easily. So I think I would say trying things out, so different methods in different contexts, thinking about different leadership opportunities. Just try these things out. And I think finally, I would say, given the breadth and the inclusivity and the aim of implementation research, which is solely concerned about improving the experiences of those in receipt of health and care services in terms of the context I work in, it's really important, I think, to stay true to the values that drive our endeavours, and actually have the confidence to call out others who don't stay true to those values. So I think for me that really those encompass some of the key personal qualities and characteristics that hopefully together with those other touchstone points that I've mentioned will enable us all to continue to realise a rewarding and sustained career. And I'm going to finish there, so that gives us a little bit of time, I think, for questions or discussion.